March 8th, 2017. What we have here is the Great Debate. In astronomy, the Great Debate, also called the Shapley-Curtis Debate, was an influential debate held on the 26th of April, 1920, at the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History between the astronomers Harold Shapley and Herbert Curtis. The debate concerned the nature of the so-called spiral nebulae and the size of the universe, specifically whether distant nebulae were relatively small and lay within the outskirts of Earth's home galaxy, or whether they were in fact independent galaxies, implying that they were exceedingly large and distant. So essentially, they were looking up through the telescopes, and they would see a little blob, and they would go, well, that's either something local or something really, really, really big, really, really far away. And Shapley's argument was that it was local, it's just a blob, and it's very close. And Curtis's argument was that it was an entire galaxy full of, billions and billions of stars, many millions of light years away. So we know who won that debate. And on that note, the reason why they argued about this, when they could have argued about other popular things like relativity, was because of one of the organizers. His name was Charles Greeley Abbot. He was one of the administrators here. He was a very practical person. Quick overview on him. He was born May 31st, 1872, and he lived till December 17th, 1973, literally 101 years. He was an American astrophysicist and the 5th Secretary of the Smithsonian Institution, serving from 1928 until 1944. Abbot went from being director of the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory to becoming Assistant Secretary and then Secretary of the Smithsonian Institution over the course of his career. As an astrophysicist, he researched the solar constant, research that led him to invent the solar cooker, solar boiler, solar still, and other patented solar energy inventions. Basically, he was a very hands-on person, an inventor, a very practical-minded person. And the reason why I wanted to go over him in specific was when he was talking with Hale, he had written him a letter saying, hey, what should we do this debate on? Should we do it popular relativity stuff? Or should we actually have some meat behind it, some real astronomical wonder going on here? And being that Abbott was one of the organizers and he was very practical, here's a really funny quote from him. Quote, "As to relativity, I must confess that I would rather have a subject in which there would be a half-dozen members of the Academy competent enough to understand at least a few words of what the speakers were saying if we had a symposium upon it. I pray to God that the progress of science will send relativity to some region of space beyond the 4th dimension, from whence it may never return to plague us." Pretty powerful statement there, coming from a very practical astrophysicist back in 1920. That being said, no debate happened for a long time after that. They tried to do another Great Debate series starting in 1995, 1996, and 1998. But they really did not answer any fundamental questions like the Great Debate did. Are these things entire galaxies, or are they little solar systems in formation? The other debates were the distance scale to gamma ray bursts, the scale of the universe, and the nature of the universe. Very vague, no, not real fundamental questions here. And on that note, the second Great Debate hasn't even begun yet. It must be held within the next 20 years as the data starts rolling in from the James Webb Space Telescope, the 30-meter telescope, and the Giant Magellan Telescope and others, which are very, very large telescopes that we haven't even started using yet. But when the exoplanet data comes back from them, it will be quite apparent that stellar evolution is planet formation. But that debate hasn't even started yet. I'm predicting it's going to begin probably within the next 20 years. What is 2017? By about 2040, it'll be pretty clear what's going on here, how lost astronomers were back these days. An analogy for the two, similar to World War I and World War II, the second great debate will involve more casualties and lead to understanding and awareness of the connectedness of humanity to the stars and the galaxy and to each other. World War I, we didn't really learn our lesson. We're like, pissing contest time. Who's the biggest, baddest country? And then we did it again. We realized how horrible it was, and we would never do it again after that. It was considered the Great Debate, or the Great War, but little did they know it was going to happen again a few years down the road. This second Great Debate is going to involve more casualties because it will challenge the very assumptions of what we believe power stars, what we believe how life formed, and all that all together. And it'll be crystal clear how small we are in the universe and how fantastic all of this really is. But the stars, they're not some nuclear-powered things, that they're new planets. And if there's billions of them, guess what? That means there's probably billions of evolved planets right now, with life on them right now, just like us. That being said, most of astronomy don't even know yet what's happening. They have no idea. Their heads are in the clouds, most of them, where the sun doesn't shine, but they have no idea that this is going to transpire. Basically, now that I know this, it'll take quite a few years before it reaches their attention, and then they'll do something about it. It works very, 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 very slowly. And I guess it's not exactly my responsibility to make them change their ways, but if they don't keep up with the times and with the data that rolls in and trying to make sense of it, well, their careers, their worldviews, and their ideas are going to be obsoleted, and they'll have to retire regardless because they're not modern anymore. It's like they live in the past, and that's essentially what's going to happen. Alright, the guy's name, just so everybody knows, is Charles Greeley Abbot. I'm going to start reading more about him. Surprising to see somebody live for so long. 101 years, it's uncommon. Alright, y'all, take it easy.